My presentation focuses on the practical applications of the inquiry cycle in your school, and I hope it's useful for your own journey. So I am from Norfolk Village State School. The school was opened in 2009. It's an independent public school in Ormeau on the Gold Coast, which is about 40 minutes back up the highway. We currently do have 1,073 students from prep to year 6, so that's 42 classrooms across my school and 122 staff. I feel very honoured and humbled to have been asked to share with you today, and I do hope that you enjoy listening to our journey. Through this approach, I hope to model how our school is focusing on the right drivers for school improvement to ensure the power of collaboration is at the heart of our school's culture. Everywhere we go at the moment, we're talking about inquiry cycles, but inquiry cycles require collaboration, and we need to spend some time talking about how we do that effectively. So our school's moral imperative is for every child to flourish. And we believe that should be happening in their well-being and their academic achievement. And to achieve this, I ask myself some questions. How can I ensure I am balancing the well-being of my staff and students in alignment with our school improvement agenda? How do we ensure the range of programs and interventions we have in place represents a continuum of support and are targeted at the right level at the right time for each individual student, not just some students? How can we be innovative in our school structures to create flexible ways to provide this support? And most importantly, how can I ensure that I identify and attend to a student's well-being to create the strong foundation that will enable them to learn, given some of the very complex family environments they might be coming from? I found that effective collaboration is at the heart of these questions, and it's also in the solutions. A critical success factor in our school is the development of high-performance teams who can collaborate and problem-solve these complex challenges together as a professional learning community. So what is effective collaboration, and how do our teachers learn these skills? Hattie has shown that teacher collective efficacy has a 1.23 effect size, making it among the most powerful influences we know on student achievement. Sharrett describes collaborative learning as building collective capacity, energising knowledge together, and moving schools from being places of good intentions to centres of purposeful practice on the part of all teachers, who then empower students to do the same. This approach allows us to learn from each other about what works best, rather than just what works. They describe this as co-labouring. We are responsible and accountable for our own learning while supporting the learning of other co-labourers. This is truly collaboration. Effective collaboration also requires deep levels of trust. And in Good to Great, the authors share that great leaders invest in creating trustworthy relationships. They build spirited and cohesive teams that truly feel like family. These relationships are the keys that unlock support. The more trusted people feel, the more they will innovate. Stephen Covey states, without trust, we don't truly collaborate, we merely coordinate, or at best cooperate. It is trust that transforms a group of people into a team. This requires us, as the principals and leaders in our schools, to model being learners for our staff and being open to learning and vulnerable. This is incredibly powerful for our teachers to hear when I say, you know what, I'm not sure how we're going to overcome this either, but I'm in it with you together. To promote learning and nurture a growth mindset, you need to create a climate of inquiry and openness, of patience and of encouragement. This requires a different kind of leadership, a coaching and inquiry approach. People know they don't always get it right the first time they try something new, and they know that that might be a little bit scary. They don't want to embarrass themselves in front of their peers. So to create a climate of learning, we have to make it safe for others to try, to fail, and to learn from their experiences. Make it a habit to ask, what can we learn, as often as you can. This requires grit leadership, perseverance and passion for long-term student improvement goals. Yesterday we talked about reciprocal accountability, and it's something I believe really strongly in. If I'm asking my teachers to do this work, I need to give them time and support to do it well. If student improvement is our goal, we want our teachers to return to classrooms to impact student achievement in a positive way from the time they spend doing this inquiry. So at Norfolk Village State School, how do we do this? This is a very colour complex diagram. I understand that for a Saturday morning, but it is our non-contact timetable, and I've put it up just to visually explain the way we do this. We run a 6-line non-contact timetable at Norfolk Village. The 7th line you can see there is our library timetable, which provides every team in our school with an additional 1 hour of non-contact on top of their 2 hours. And that 1 hour is for them to meet in their teams during the day. Not after school when they're tired and they've been teaching all day, but during the day because I value them and what they're doing. We seek feedback on the lines of the timetable, so what those subjects are, according to the P-12 curriculum framework, as this impacts their teaching, assessing and reporting requirements as a year level. This allows every teacher in every team to focus on the right work, which is student improvement. There is no operational matters discussed during this time. It is just teaching and learning. So I've heard lots of principals asking this question: which model should I use? My advice is to explore the models for the consistent through lines and contextualise this for your school. Start small and build your rigour over time. And be prepared for the mental models that inquiry will expose. They'll become apparent through the professional conversations your teachers have. It will involve the quality of assessment, the quality of tasks, equity, and whether people truly believe that every student can flourish in your school. And as these mental models arise, be prepared to build the capacity of your staff and have the right data sets ready to help them through that discussion. So we've explored a couple of models, but the one that we use most predominantly is the professional learning team model from professional learning communities, and I know some of our colleagues shared this work yesterday. Number one, what do we want them to learn? The focus is clarifying student learning expectations. Number two, how will we know if they've learnt it? How will we use assessment to track that? And number three, how will we know if they haven't learnt it? And four, how we respond if they have learnt it around organising intervention across your school so all students are receiving support in a timely manner. We've also had a look at Simon Breakspeare's sprint model, and all of my staff had the pleasure of learning with him at the start of this year. And of course, we've had a look at the debt inquiry model. I think it's really important that no matter which model you go with, that your model has a coaching focus. This is about supporting teachers' progress from novice to expert in their problem of practice. It involves small groups of teachers every week engaging in quality professional learning aligned to your improvement agenda. We hold these meetings in a designated collaborative PLT space, which is designed for our middle leadership team and teachers to come together as one. Having a designated space allows us to have the right staff and information available for each meeting to build capacity in a trusting and collaborative environment. It's not right next door to my office. It's away from admin, collaborative space. So we made a decision to learn from each of the models and ignite these theories into practice by connecting their main ideas. And this is how we went about it. So this example here is our Term 1 model, and you'll see Simon Breakspeare's sprint cycle on one side and then the 4 PLT questions plotted throughout the term. And we started really, really simply to help our people at novice point of entry learn this process. We also developed this tracking tool to capture where each team was up to in the cycle at any given time. So teams would move themselves along where the questions were to show their progress. And if any member of a team needed additional support in learning these processes, they could identify teams working in this area on the tracking tool and request to attend their meeting to learn as we were all learning by doing. In Term 2, we took that one step further and we then aligned that to our response to intervention model. We see intervention as a continuum of support and use the last 2 professional learning team questions to drive differentiation for every student in our school. We run 3 response to intervention squads, which feature 4 staff, 2 teachers and 2 teacher aides, which are then in addition to the 2 classroom teachers for the classrooms they go into, which provides 6 adults. They provide 3 30-minute targeted lessons every week in my 42 classrooms. And that's focused where students are at in their point of need for reading instruction. And this helps us address the last 2 questions. What will we do for those who have learnt it, and what will we do for those who haven't? Providing open-ended questions for your leadership team enables them to develop their facilitation skills with a coaching mindset so that the culture of your professional learning team meetings is truly building capacity. We have to ensure our middle leaders have the facilitation skills to lead these meetings to achieve the outcomes we want to get out of them. Yesterday we talked a little bit about this, the learning pit. And it's really important that we prepared for our teachers to get in the pit during this process. Name it, acknowledge it, and actively provide support and coaching to get them out of the pit. Help them to identify their wobbling as they themselves are learners again. And sometimes we've forgotten what that feels like. Trade off time to support their learning. So for example, in term 1, when my teachers got in the pit, I wiped all of our staff meeting agendas and I handed our PLT time as well as our staff meeting time to let my teachers do the work. So this is where we're heading now. This is our term 4 example. I recognise that's very small, but I did leave it as one picture to show you how quickly we've been able to deepen the rigour term by term by having a building capacity approach. What we've done now is align our model to the Australian professional standards for teachers at the proficient level. So this increases the rigour and it brings the language of the standards to life rather than it being something teachers look at when they go to write their performance plans once a year. We also added a new question to the professional learning team model. It's our Norfolk version, and that is, who are our students? So we keep our learners at the centre of everything that we do. Each of our meetings start with a check-in around our team norms, and I know we spoke about collective commitments yesterday. Norms provide expectations for behaviour in these meetings, and all the teams in our school, from my teachers to our teacher aides to my support staff, have these norms in place so that we're modelling the same language as professionals as we expect from our students. Our meetings have weekly agendas and minutes. We always start with a one-word check-in and we do a what went well. We buzz around the table with a great news story from classrooms for that week, and I know Pete spoke about that yesterday. At the top of our meetings, and I left it together for you to see the whole, but there is a clear learning intention there and a success criteria. So we're modelling what we expect from our teachers. Up here, the table with the yellow highlighting is a Koban wall, something that Simon Breakspear talks about. And the heading columns are to do, doing and done. And our teams fill their tasks in that table. So every week I check how they're going with their workload as a team. It also has a feed up to ELT section. ELT in our school stands for Executive Leadership Team. That's the deputies and myself. And my staff know that if I couldn't be at the table for that professional learning team meeting that day, that I will read that and respond to them within 24 hours because I value their voices. These are emailed before the meeting, well in advance, and they're emailed, the minutes are emailed directly after. So to do that, we have a meeting chair, we have a minute taker, and we have the moderator roles that Pete spoke about yesterday, so that we make sure we get as much out of that hour as we can. That is a reflection of an hour of work. When we first started this process, we couldn't get through all of that in an hour. We got stuck down in some things, and so we've had to learn that what we want to get out of this time is what we put in, and those roles really help us to do that. So getting the structures and cycle right for inquiry are really just the beginning. The heart of this work is effective collaboration. And to support building this in my school, I partnered with Pete and Danielle Stebbins and implemented the high-performing team framework as outlined in their book, iTeams. We did thinking and learning preferences with our staff. Many of your staff might know their Aussie Outback animal. They might know their Myers-Briggs style, but they may not know their thinking and learning style. And this is essential for effective collaboration. And with this information, teams can play to their strengths in the key tasks to be completed, and we can create balanced teams across our school for all staff groups, not just our teachers. Because the more we know each other, the better we can collaborate and achieve the outcomes we desire. We use these ground rules for success to start every staff meeting, and we also have the red and yellow moderator cards in all of our meetings across the school to ensure we stick to the agenda and focus on the right work. Our staff have had a lot of fun with these red and yellow cards, and I actually had a few of my teachers come to professional learning team meetings dressed as soccer coaches with their whistles. Whilst fun, this vital role helps to ensure the meeting stays on track and we have maximum output for our time together. If I think about the human resource investment in the number of teachers and middle leaders sitting at the table at any PLT meeting, I have to ensure I'm getting good return on that investment. We did our team talent maps to help identify the talents across our school and have staff working towards their strengths, because we know when they do this, they're happier at work and they're more able to collaborate effectively. Secret skills are also great wellbeing activities in your teams. Yeah. I like finding, I'm not a very good cook, so I like finding the good cooks on my staff so I can source them out. We also did the above and below the line behaviour based on our thinking and communicating preferences. And this is about saying, if we're going to work together, how do we do this well? What would we like it to look and sound and feel like? And these protocols help set the context for safe staff conversations about practice, which is actually at the heart of the inquiry model, encouraging all of our teachers to be reflective practitioners committed to continual improvement. So to support staff wellbeing, we have aligned these practices with our inquiry cycle to try and strike the right balance between support and accountability, which is essential for school cultures focused on student progress and achievement. We have a peer buddy system where we can check on staff we're concerned about from a wellbeing perspective. So if at a professional learning team meeting a teacher says in their emotional check-in that they're not doing so well, that will come to our executive team and we will go and check in on them and see what we can do to make sure they're okay. This is a key strategy we use frequently to support our staff as learners, and I think it's really important as you implement the inquiry cycle to know that your teachers come to that at different places on that novice to expert continuum, and we have to be very wary of that in this process. We start every staff meeting and PLT meeting with that wellbeing check-in. We provide wellbeing tips in each week's staff bulletin. We run a staff wellbeing session once a month, as I'm sure many of you do, to ensure we support our staff in achieving their work-life goals and having high levels of wellbeing. When my staff are well, they can do their jobs well. So what do I listen for in my teams to know where they're at and the next steps I need to take? In high-performing teaching teams, I hear empathy, understanding and openness. I hear that growth mindset at play. In low-performance teams, I hear critical, avoidant and defensive behaviour and that closed mindset. It's interesting to me that we do this work with our children, but we're not always good at recognising that language in ourselves. Leading this process is about balancing the necessary tension of the learning pit with the need to lower stress and improve overall wellbeing. Being part of high-performance teams who are committed to supporting our students achieve their potential gives energy to teachers who otherwise work on their own. This is not to say that working in teams is not without challenges that come with being vulnerable and open to feedback, knowing when to take things on board and when to let them go. But leaders who develop a school culture that simply seeks to lower stress levels in staff avoid exposing those staff to some of the more difficult professional development experiences necessary to maximise teacher performance. Whilst in the short term people are happy, over the longer term the lack of learning and continuous improvement in teachers shows in student achievement levels. If we over-focus on minimising stress, difficult conversations and developmental feedback is also avoided, resulting in job satisfaction dropping. The cultural language I hear among staff in these circumstances is, "I'm too busy, I don't have enough time." Conversely, when the focus is on teacher learning and development without also supporting wellbeing, teachers can become overwhelmed with the burden of continuous improvement that is not paced to match their motivation and energy levels. This creates a silent, toxic culture of passive participation and non-disclosure for fear of rocking the boat. This is the language that sounds like, we've already tried that. We've been there before. Thus, for me, the core behaviour of a high-performance school culture should be summed up in 3 words: learning, disclosing and supporting. These are the underlying drivers of the wellbeing and learning strategies I co-create with staff in the schools that I lead. In a culture where everyone is engaged in the disciplines of learning, disclosing and support, I hear words such as, "What if we tried? Let's give this a go. I'll give it a go." My mantra for this is shoulder to shoulder. Because when we truly are shoulder to shoulder, we can transform the lives of the children that we serve. We use a feedback cycle across our school which draws on Simon Breakspeare's work again, and it has 3 steps: clarify, incubate and amplify. And we have our feed up and feed down model so that our staff are regularly heard around anything that they can contribute or that we need to know. We also use Brené Brown's feedback norms in every meeting, which reflect our shoulder-to-shoulder culture. And quality feedback should bring us closer together rather than further apart. So we actually model this language all the time. So my advice would be establish what are your tight, loose processes and your non-negotiables, and avoid rescuing or bat-caping your staff. And we talk about this all the time. I don't know about you, but sometimes we want to rescue our people. We put that bat cape on and we fly in and want to save the day, and we don't let them wobble and learn, but we need to. So make sure your team have the focus of capability development and are able to do that well. Learn by doing. My leadership now focuses on developing school cultures that are optimal for growth for all members of our school community. A culture where we can learn by doing in a safe and supportive environment, committed to all students and staff flourishing. This type of school culture is optimal for growth, where staff and students are supported to get into the learning pit so they can progress and flourish. It requires an empathetic leadership style which knows when to intervene in the struggle of learning and when to allow people to learn for sustainable growth. It requires respect, trust, courage, resiliency, clear vision and goals, and a firm commitment and belief in my staff that together we truly can overcome any challenge. I think it's really important that we need to recognise that creating this culture takes time. This is not a quick journey. Stay the course knowing it will take time. Yesterday we heard, go fast, slowly. So I can say from our work that this is a really exciting journey for schools. It is essential that your curriculum leaders are ready to lead this work and have appropriate support and coaching to do so along the way. Has your team identified who will this be, and are you investing in their capacity to understand the cycle as well as lead it? My school is at the very beginning of this journey, learning by doing. And I'd like to thank all of my staff who embraced this journey with me this year and are on the ride with me. It certainly hasn't been smooth sailing, and we've been in the pit a few times, but they know that I'm there with them, shoulder to shoulder. I wish you every success in implementing this in your schools. In the spirit of collaboration, we're happy to share and support however we can. As school leaders, we need to deepen the professional support amongst our colleagues. We need a culture of support and challenge in our principal networks to get in the learning pit together as principals. We need to collaborate and share our problems of practice so we can support each other and together find the solutions to striking the right balance between well-being and achievement. As our school leaders are supported and engaged to become professional learning communities across clusters, regions, states, and countries, I believe we can accelerate the achievement of our vision for every student and staff member to truly flourish. From my community to yours, I wish you every success. I hope that you will contact me if there's anything I can assist with. Enjoy your day.